first several months of their occupancy to accommodate them for the inconvenience that this might cause. What has happened here is that we have attempted to do the balancing, and Mr. Palmer has had individuals on the site attempting to do the balancing. We don't dispute, however, that the balance is not properly set yet. I guess the real question is, what has caused that to occur in this case? And I think there really are only two causes. First and foremost, it is the utter lack of cooperation that we have experienced from the tenants in this instance. They have been completely uncontrollable in terms of changing the settings on the various thermostats in their offices. We have tried to work with them on this, and we simply have not secured their cooperation. On the other hand, the owner is also responsible to some extent for the failure to control the tenants. We have recommended that he have lock boxes installed on the thermostats in some of the principal offices where the problem occurs, and he's simply refused to do so. He's also refused to give the tenants instructions in how important it is to maintain a proper balance for the system. As a result, the system isn't working very well. But I've got to tell you that under the circumstances where the tenants and the owner will not cooperate, even the best designed system will not function properly.
So far we've heard from everyone except the contractor, Mr. Baker, and I for one, and I think everybody else here would be very interested in hearing what you have to say about this.
Well, I think it's all been said, Mr. Shane. I don't think there's anything I could add. I surely agree with what Nicole said. I mean, I was out there with my sub day after day trying to balance the system. The tenants are in there day after day changing the thermostats. They'd have been a lot better off if the owner had spent time disciplining his tenants instead of badgering us.
Thanks. I appreciate what you're saying. I think this is the point where we ought to break up, and I'd like to talk to each of the parties individually. I want to start with the landlord, Mr. Bader, and his lawyer, Mr. Wolf. So if the rest of you can stay here, and Mr. Bader and Mr. Wolf, if you'll just come with me, there's an office next door that we can use, talk privately. Thanks. But in order to get to the bottom of this and help you reach a solution, I really need for all of you to be able to feel like you can put your cards out on the table. So why don't you tell me your view of this?
Mike, I'll tell you, I'm getting angrier all the time. I don't know whose problem this is, but they're all trying to make it mine, and I'm not going to take it.
Yeah, I understand. I understand how you feel. I'd like for you to consider how the tenants feel in this thing, too. You know, there was some talk about their playing around with the thermostats and that creating the problem. And from their perspective, you know, they've got this problem they have to live with the air conditioning system, so they're feeling very much put upon themselves. I think the bottom line really here is that you definitely have a problem, and the problem's just got to be solved.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, every time I hear Fitzpatrick talk about withholding rent, I see red. Why should I give into that kind of...
Oh, well, wait a minute. Wait. Look, we know we have a problem. We're here to try and solve it, okay? But I'd like to go off on a slightly different avenue for a moment, because we've done our own independent investigation of this problem, and we think we know what's causing it. Frankly, we were shocked to find out that the duct that was used in at least part of this building was undersized, smaller than what was originally specified. When we pursued this, we found out that there was an RFI, which as you know is a field change document, in the files that was initialed apparently by the architect's office, but clearly was not approved by the owner, permitting the contractor to make this change.
Well, that's interesting, and I think a useful piece of information, especially the fact that you know about it, and I'm wondering whether or not you wouldn't permit me to share the fact that you have that knowledge with the other parties.
Well, we've discussed that, and there's a reason why we didn't discuss this in the general meeting. We think this is a useful piece of ammunition to use against the architect and probably the contractor as well.
But look, consider this. The economics of the situation really drive a solution here. You've got to solve this problem. It doesn't seem to me like you have any alternative. And without regard to right or wrong, Mr. Bader, the bottom line is in order to reach that solution, you're probably going to have to think about making some sort of compromise toward getting the solution here. Now, it's a little early in the game for me to start talking in concrete terms with you, but I really would appreciate it if the two of you would start thinking about that. That information, I think, is very valuable, and I'd like your permission to share it if I think it would be useful in helping settle the case.
I don't think there's any doubt that the system was completely correctly designed initially, but in the course of the last several weeks, we have discovered that there may be a problem with the mechanical system.